Senator Vickers is a class act, and it's been as pleasant as it can be running against friends. But we have limited opportunities to serve in the state legislature, and in that time, limited opportunities to serve in various capacities. And so, I think that's really what spurred this.
Yeah, good question, Ben.
Great question.
Was there any just particular policy change, or you just felt like you would like to serve as minority leader? What was the sense of the caucus? Obviously, you prevailed in the votes, and so is there a shift in policy or direction that you would like to see, necessitating why you all chose to run for these seats?
I can speak for myself. There were virtually no policy discussions. This wasn't about different policy direction or anything like that. I think generally everybody in the Senate caucus is pretty happy about the direction that the Senate's been going, and so.
And I'd chime in too, Ben. For me, it wasn't about policy. It was just an opportunity to serve in this capacity. I've had a chance to serve in the legislature for a long time, and this was an opportunity that I wanted to further serve the caucus and my colleagues in the state. The assistant whip job, which is where I'm at, there wasn't anybody running as an incumbent, so it was an open seat, and that's why I decided to run.
Chris, any thoughts?
Yeah, and I just wanted to reiterate what these guys have said. I just wanted the opportunity to serve. We've done some great policies in the past, and it's been an honor and a privilege to serve. I just wanted to mention that Senator Ann Milner is a highly respected member of this body, and will continue to be. She'll be a big part of policy going forward, and well respected, and I really appreciate her and what the leadership team has done. And I'm just looking forward for the opportunity to work with everybody, not only a membership team or the leadership team, but also members of the caucus, which I call our team. We have a very strong team and a lot of very, very talented members, and with some new members coming in that are very, very talented, and just looking forward to a great session.
So, and Ben, I believe America, and we see what's going on in Ukraine, we see what's happening in Israel, we see all kinds of things going on. We see a shift right now even in our presidential or national elections. I believe America is still the hope of the world. You go around and talk to everyone around the world, everybody talks about America. We need help for America. America is what we want to be like. And as I look at America, and I go and travel and talk to other legislators and see what's going on around the rest of the country, Utah is the hope of America. And if we are the hope of America and America is the hope of the world, what does that mean? And we are a united caucus. Our caucus didn't change positions. Our caucus has been united. Look what we have done. We have done amazing things. We lead the country in economy. We're the best economy. Upward mobility. We help people get better. What can be better than be the state that has the best upward mobility? And then we're the most humanitarian. We do the most good for other people. We serve other people. And we felt it in our caucus. This was a tough leadership election, but I believe we're more united after the election than we were before. At least that's what I felt during the election process.
So going into the next term, and you have a new administration also in the White House coming in as well, what are your priorities? When you come January, what do you want to accomplish?
Well, first priority, I think, is a big one for me, is we know that AI is going to control the world. We look around the world, and the country who controls AI is going to control the world, both economically and militarily. And AI is dependent on data centers. Data centers depend on energy. And the rest of the country, everybody's looking for energy around the world. They aren't looking for it just in Utah, but around the world. Utah, we've always had, we have the lowest electric prices. We just saw natural gas prices decrease, but we don't have a surplus of energy. We cannot fund, or we can't light up these data centers. And if we can't light up the data centers, these brilliant scientists we have that are developing this AI technology, it's for naught, because they can't do anything. So energy has to be one of our top priorities. Energy, water, education. And they can talk more about it, but that's going to be where we're headed. Yeah.
When you say education, what are you looking at with education? What are you hoping?
Well, we now lead the nation, I think, or we're one of the top in teacher salaries. But U.S. News World Report, when we talk about it a lot, that we were one of the best states in the nation for economy. We're the second best. They rated us for education. And we have teachers. Because we have we have a very high birth rate, we have large classroom sizes, our teachers have to be some of the very best, because we don't have the ability to have the lowest per pupil spending, because we have large families. and our teachers are really good, and I think we need to continue to invest in our teachers, and then try to make sure we have an environment where families can take care of their kids. And Senator McKell's working on social media,
Yeah.
and we see what's happening to our girls in high school when they go to the hospital, and and it's flat from 2000 to 2010, and 2010 it stands on its end. We need to continue to work on some social issues like that. So.
I add to
Go
that a
ahead.
little bit. Some of the opportunities and working groups that I've dealt with this past interim have also been talking about workforce development. And so I think education, whether we're talking K through 12 and then particularly in higher ed and some of our technical colleges, I think we really need to work with some of the industries that are burgeoning here in Utah, including med tech, including technology, AI, we've got Silicon Slopes and all that, and paving a way for education to be more customizable and showing kids and families the opportunities that are out there that are growing, because I think we miss some opportunities in developing workforce because we've got to hit these kids just a little bit younger so that they know the right paths and where those opportunities might be, and then create that synergy between industry, higher ed, and even down into the K through 12.
And based on that, Speaker Schultz has talked a little bit about how looking at maybe pushing for some budget cuts among higher ed. I'm curious if the Senate sees that a little differently.
What I'm understanding Speaker Schultz to say is not necessarily budget cuts, but actually realignment. The realignment is we have a need for engineers. We have a need for technicians. We have a need for what I would say is high demand jobs, like Senator Cullimore talked about, and actually responding to the needs of the workforce. And I think the effort is to try to reallocate those funds to the areas that are high demand type of employment. I mean, everywhere I look, I mean, from teachers to IT people to engineers and others, I think we need to make sure that we're educating and taking care of the high demand jobs.
Yeah, high-paying jobs.
High paying jobs, but those most in demand. We
Yes.
custom fit to try to fit what the industry is looking for.
Yeah.
When you say this was a hard leadership election, like were some of these races close within the caucus? Was there some friction over any of these elections?
We don't know if they're close or not because of the way we do it. We just don't have that information. But I'll let each one of them talk about the friction because that's probably a good thing for somebody else to talk about.
I just say I respect my colleagues, and it's hard when you're picking between friends. And I look at these races, and the difficulty for me is I have colleagues that I really respect. The Senate is pretty close. We're friends. We have those relationships. And I think it comes down to really trying to decide between two people that you really care about, that you really respect. And that's where it's difficult for me. I didn't feel like there was tension. I felt like all of the races, top to bottom, were very respectful, very professional. But it's hard when you've got people you care about that you've worked with for years, and you're picking between people that you really, truly care about.
Senator Wilson?
Yeah, somebody told me that if you want to run for leadership, there's nothing worse you have to do in the Senate, and I didn't know how bad it was going to be because, Senator Cullimore said, or Senator McKell said, is you're running against friends. You're trying to convince friends to vote for you over another one of their close friends. But I'll tell you, we have a lot of class acts here on our caucus, and we know that we have to get together as a team. And everybody that ran and was unsuccessful are class acts. And they're still going to be highly respected members of our caucus. They're going to be very much involved with the direction of policy going forward, and I think each one of them knows that. And so we're all friends, and like I said, looking forward for the session.
Senator Cullimore, any comments?
I think it's been said. So same thing. I mean, we respect everybody. If there's tension, it's not unfriendly tension. It's because we have such good relationships, and you're asking people to vote for you, not against your other friend. So.
And I didn't feel tension, I felt anxiety. Anxiety because, I'm going to miss Senator Vickers and Senator Milner. So there's anxiety, and yet we've got a great leadership team here. So that's anxiety because you've got really good choices, and you're really sensitive to other people's, how they deal with it. And I want to tell you that what I've seen from Senator Vickers, Senator Milner, there couldn't be, like what's been said, more class acts on the planet. And this is an amazing process. It's very hard, very sensitive because we are all friends. But I have respect for everyone involved in the process.
Can we expect any changes in approach, or do you have any regrets from past leadership? When we talked with Speaker Schultz, he said he thought he kind of made some mistakes with regard to Amendment D, and he talked about how he wished the ballot language would have been a bit more clear. Do you have any regrets from that?
Well, we all can do better, and I think both Speaker Schultz and I, we would have redone the language a little bit, but we also are pretty passionate about being a republic, so sometimes you step a little fast, but those mistakes happen, but that's what happens. But I don't see any, I didn't see any of that in this leadership race, if you're talking about that.
That wasn't an issue
no.
tonight.
No,
Okay.
that didn't come up. And I think it's been said, and I'll repeat it again, I didn't hear policy, meaning a change of direction. We've done so many great things as a caucus. I heard it more as just this as an opportunity, and I want to try to serve.
As far as Amendment D goes, do you expect any actions to address that issue again in the upcoming session in any way? Or are you going to let it
Absolutely.
lie?
I'll never give up on the passion I have for being a Republic, and you'll probably hear it as long as I'm here.
Does that
Okay.
mean another constitutional amendment in a different
we're
form?
working on things like that. So we got to keep a little bit of anxiety, or have you stay tuned. But you'll see something. I'll guarantee you. Okay. We're not going to give up on that one. Okay.
This may not have been as big of an issue in the Senate Republican caucus, but there was some, friction about election processes and election code among Republicans in the House. I'm curious, we asked about whether there are looks at reforms to election code. Is the Senate thinking about that? Has that been discussed? I know, some of the friction that's come up among Republicans. Senator McKelly, you've experienced some stuff
Yeah.
like that.
So, and maybe I'll start, and then let Senator McCall chime in. But I know a lot of, at least I know the Davis County clerks and a lot of the other clerks. I want to say, so that we're very clear, I believe those, just like our teachers, those that get involved in the election process have a passion for it. They want to do what's right, and they're doing their best job possible, and I respect that. We didn't audit. The audit said we could have done some things better, just like we probably could have had better language. And we learned from that, and we acknowledge it, and we move on. And so we think there could be some things done in the signature gathering process. It could be better, and if you read the audit, you'll see what they are. You'll probably see legislation to try to do that. But the process, it's a new process, and you learn from it. And I think those that were involved in the process used their very best efforts, and I think we have a really great process, and we'll probably continue to make it better, though. Any comments?
I just add, I agree with what President Adams has said, but as we look at the process, the one thing we want to make sure is that we give the public confidence in our election process. And I've got a lot of confidence in our election process, but that doesn't mean we don't spend time reviewing, looking for ways to improve. And I agree with President Adams. We looked at the audit. I think we learned some things. And I think we should always be trying to improve our election process to give the public greater confidence and greater transparency.
Another thing that came up with House leadership was really looking forward to working with the incoming administration on the words they used was securing Utah's sovereignty. I know Senator Sandel has really been out in front of particularly public lands issues. Do you have any insight on how that relationship will shape future policy in regards to public lands and energy going forward?
So before we get into that, I'll give a little prediction. 4 years ago, I predicted that we'd have higher energy prices. I predicted with higher energy prices that we'd have higher inflation. I predicted with higher inflation we'd have higher interest rates. With higher interest rates, I predicted we have a slower economy. I predict right now we're going to have lower energy costs, lower gas prices, we'll have lower inflation, and we'll have lower interest rates, and we'll have a stronger economy. And I think when you combine that type of an effort with regulatory changes, and we've seen, if you look at our state tax revenue, we have no revenue coming in, no federal tax revenue coming in from oil drilling. It's all on Indian land or on Sitka land. That's where all the oil drilling is in eastern Utah. That stopped with the last administration. You're going to see more revenue come in because those lands are going to be opened back up again, and we're going to have more prosperity, more opportunity, and we ought to be able to control that, especially lands, and I'll let other people talk to those issues, but I'm excited for the new administration, no secret about it, and I think our future's bright because of what happened a few days ago. Anything else?
No, I think that was very well said, and you know, we've got a good idea of what a Trump administration might look like, but I think a second Trump administration with a little bit of traction already in place and a little bit of know-how already been there, they've signaled that there may be some efforts to restructure the federal government, and I think that's an opportunity for us as states to take a little bit more of a lead. I think what we do at the state level is better, more efficient. It's we're able to put tax dollars to use better at the state level, and if we can reverse some of what's happened over the last several decades, maybe even 100 years, I think that's a good thing, and I think this poses an opportunity for us to assert ourselves a little bit more and work with the administration to reshift that balance.
So we see some issues posed on us by the federal government, and we want better air quality. There's no question about it. Air quality, because we know if we don't, people aren't going to want to live here. We've all experienced those inversion days. But some of this becomes very difficult. When the staircase Escalante, when you have air quality monitors in the staircase Escalante that don't meet air quality standards, how on earth are we going to meet them on the Wasatch Front? And it's more than just Utah. Somebody's got to look at those standards and say it isn't Utah's fault. It's either pollution coming into the state, and we need to be able to have help with that rather than just shut down our roads, shut down our federal, the money coming from the federal government, federal revenue, or put more regulations upon our businesses here. And hopefully we have an administration through I believe the past regulatory processes with the Trump administration, they were open to the challenges that states face and not just punitive to them. And I think it'll be very positive.
As it pertains to the petition from the Supreme Court regarding public land control, public land in Utah, I know some legal scholars have raised some questions about the chances of that succeeding in front of in a court situation. Is the new administration opening up more doors to maybe come at this from a more regulatory standpoint as opposed to a legal standpoint?
I mean,
Go ahead.
for me as
Two attorneys here. I'm going to give it to them.
For me as an attorney, I hope we consider all of our options. I certainly think the new administration is going to be easier to work with as a state, and I think that's important. But I think we keep all of those avenues open. I mean, I think we know what the goal is. The question is how do we get there, and having more opportunity, I think, is always better for the state.
Kirk, anything?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the legal route is one way, or is one path, and then the regulatory route, but I think, you know, even the Supreme Court and our federal courts have signaled a little bit of change of direction. I mean, we had the case
Chevron
that,
deference.
kind of the minimizing of the Chevron deference, which I think opens some new doors, new legal paths, and then, of course, I do think the administration and the agencies under the new administration will probably have a different approach than what we've seen the last 4 years.
And sometimes when we try to get water down to the end of the row, it gets misunderstood. So I want to say something very clearly, so if your readers are reporting on it, you understand. We're talking about unappropriated land. We're not talking about national parks. We're not talking about other lands that are being used. We're not talking about any ground that has a federal purpose right now. We're talking about unappropriated federal ground. That ground ought to be controlled by the state. It just should. And every other state controls the ground east of the Mississippi, in fact, east of Denver, east of Colorado. And we ought to control that unappropriated ground, not the stuff that the federal government's using. And sometimes people get panicked that we're giving back to the national, trying to take control of the national parks.
Or even
And
Forest Service.
even the Forest Service. We don't want Forest Service ground. We don't want our national park grounds. The unappropriated ground is what we think we ought to have control of. So, other questions? I'm seeing Andrea stand up. Everybody got their stuff.
She get to ask us questions
So
too.
I would just say we've had a great leadership team in the past. I've been very honored to serve with them. It's been, in fact, an honor of my life. We've had great leaders, and I look forward to the new leadership team being with them. And I still believe Utah's going to lead the nation, and the Senate's going to lead Utah. So we'll do it together. Thank you. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.